so many people are so afraid to change their idea because they've put it out there already, and they're afraid they're going to be judged for changing it. When it's your money on the line, it's really up to you to figure out the best way to maximize whatever desired result you have. And if the idea you have isn't working, you don't have to abandon it. You fix it, you pivot it, you turn it into something that is much more viable. To think that amazing things are going to happen without you putting the time and effort in, it's just not realistic. I mean, lightning does strike, but what happens after that?
Hey, this is Raina Campbell, your Chief Dream Driver, and welcome to the No Parking Podcast, where through conversations and discussions with creatives like yourself, we'll find interesting approaches to help you take your dreams out of park, put them in drive, and ride towards success. Hey, Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 163 of the Dreams and Drive podcast. And today our guest is Emily Blumenthal. This episode is brought to you by Skinny Dipped, which is the chocolate-covered almond reinvented. They are non-GMO certified, ethically sourced chocolate, have no artificial flavors or sweeteners, and all of the almonds are PPO free. You guys know I love chocolate, so Skinny Dipped almonds come highly recommended, and they are the perfect snack for on the go. You can get 20% off your purchase by using the code DREAMSANDDRIVE at skinnydipped.com. So what are you going to do when, failure is an option, when people think your ideas are crazy, when they think you can't pull it off, and they laugh at your audacity? Well, the one thing you have to do is remember you can't care about what those people think, and you have to put your mind to it, because if you think it, you can do it. And that's what we're going to dive into today with Emily Blumenthal, who's our guest. So Emily is an author and professor of entrepreneurship at FIT, and she's also known as the Handbag Fairy Godmother. And on this episode, we're going to talk about how she wasn't going to take no for an answer on her quest to do what no one else had done before, which is build the Independent Handbag Designer Awards. She shares how she stumbled upon this passion and the many successes and challenges she's faced building the award show from scratch. And what I particularly love about this episode is that we're going to get deep into how she was able to build relationships and partnerships and sponsorships with some big brands such as InStyle Magazine, Henri Bendel, Bloomingdale's, Timberland, vitaminwater, and more. You guys are also going to be like, why are you guys laughing so much? It sounds like it's two girlfriends, sipping wine and chatting. I really did have so much fun talking to Emily. I've been a judge on the preliminary judging panel for the Handbag Awards for the past 3 years, and it's just been so inspiring to see just all that Emily does. Her hustle, her grit is up there, guys. So I know there's going to be a lot of takeaways that you can implement in your own brands and your own businesses. If this is your first time listening, please make sure you're subscribed to us. I hope that you enjoyed this episode, and I don't want you to not get alerts for future episodes, so hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done that. And if you really, really enjoyed this episode, the best thing you can do is share it with a friend. We are Dreams and Drive on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, so make sure you're following us there. Screenshot us, send a tweet, send something, send a text to somebody with this episode link, because I'm telling you, Emily is on point with all of her tips. All right, so let's get straight into the episode. Hope you guys enjoy.
You're so awesome. This is so great. How long have you been doing this?
The podcast from January 2016. So I just released my 161st episode yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah, all
That's
by myself.
amazing.
I've been I'm like, I really edited 161 episodes. Like, I sometimes... Like, when you're doing it, you can't take yourself out of it. But when you look back at it, you're like, wow, like, I did that?
No, it's pure comedy, actually, when you reflect on how much you've done, because I started Handbag Designer 101, the website. I started that on my honeymoon, and that was a vehicle for me to try and get my book sold, not sold to B2C, not business to consumer. It was for it to be sold and picked up by a publisher. Mm-hmm. Because I started in handbags. Well, actually, I didn't start in handbags at all. That's a lie. I started in media. I have a media background. At this point,
let's start this. Let's say this for the interview, okay?
Yeah. This is all no. Well, everything goes back to that, because this is all relevant, because I teach entrepreneurship, and I've been adjunct teaching now for 13, 14 years. So I think, people discount where they start and how that all kind of fits into the picture of where they end up. And they're really hard on themselves, especially nowadays, if they have an idea that doesn't come to fruition that minute. And things need to germinate.
Yep.
That it needs to cook, and I still can't cook. I'm responsible for people eating, and that still offends me. It's like when I went to business school and I realized, I was like, oh my God, I need to take business classes. Like, I can't charm my way through that. I was so offended. So no one told me that. I started in media. I was going to business school. I was dating a DJ, as you do. And, cause I think everybody should at least once, some guy who's really, really hot and, for that time slot, and you're like, oh my God, this won't go anywhere, but I need to tell everybody it's going to go somewhere. So you got to do that once because, you look good with him. So that was the whole point. But the beautiful thing about dating someone who, especially, he was also Australian. Well, he's still Australian, but at that time, was that the mentality of give it a go, just give it a go. And I come from a long line of people who've had their own business, who've been very pounding the pavement and be smart about your decisions and, fail fast, make it happen and figure it out. And whatever you do, don't go into something that you're not going to succeed, like fashion.
So you you did not pay attention to the roadmap laid out for you, right?
No. My sister's a lawyer. Maybe that's why, because I'm like the black sheep, which is funny, of two. So it was kind of comical because I was obsessed with trying to figure out a way to have my own business. I mean, that was that was literally the only thing I was focusing on. How can I come up with an idea that can be mine and I can make money off of it? And that was the only thing I was thinking of. And I was going to work, going to school, and then going out because this guy was a DJ. And, I recognized that, no one's come up with a handbag to hold on to when you go out. And I told him that, and he's like, "Oh, you should do it." Yeah. And then I told my parents, and they're like, "By no means should you do that. You have no training in handbags. You don't, you haven't done retail, blah, blah, blah." And then I was discussing it with him, and he's like, "Oh, you totally should." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I like his idea better." So, and there it went. So I was then just developing this little handbag and bootstrapped it and kept detailed notes of how and what I was doing, and made tons and tons of mistakes. But because I was working in media, I was able to reverse engineer, making my own press kit at the time, which, at this point, I don't even know if people have press kits. But, I was basically getting customer feedback before the product was out and trying to design into the price point, design into the product, trying to figure out what my customer was willing to pay. And because I was in business school, I took advantage of that and literally spoke to every professor at the beginning of every class and said, if we're going to do any case studies, let's make a group and have them do my business. And this was before everybody thought they were an entrepreneur. So it worked out well. Now everybody is. Back then, nobody was. So by the time I finished business school, I had 15 case studies. I had my accounting mapped out and, figured out what my next product was going to be, what the life cycle was more or less going to be. And I bootstrapped this little itty bitty bag, and I got a design patent on it. I was getting a lot of press for it. I got it on Sex and the City by myself. And I think what a lot of people discount is the element of doing your own hustle. And so many people think that they can hand over things to other people because they think they're not good at it. And you do that once you have a brand and have a business. Until then, you have to make all the mistakes yourself. You have to figure out where you screw up. You have to figure out where you're going to lose money. You'll have to lose the money yourself. People are taught so many times, if you're not good at it, get somebody else to do it. No, when you start your own business, you have to do everything. So when you hand it over to people, you know what they're doing wrong.
That is something I tell people all the time. Even when I first got into blogging and graduated, I knew nothing about making websites, but I spent a good, let's say 3 months teaching myself how to build my first website. And because of that, if I ever wanted to outsource, website design to someone else, I would know if I'm being ripped off or not, right?
Yep.
It does not take 20 hours to build 2 pages on a WordPress site. You know what I mean? It's like...
But it could.
So I love that you said that, but let's get to before all of this, Emily. I really love, starting in on or zeroing in on a starting point, right? The Emily before the handbags. How do you think your parents or your childhood friends would have described Emily the child?
All over the place and hyper. Yeah, I got kicked out of class for talking.
Really?
Yeah, all the time. I was disruptive. I think because I was such a good student, there was only so much trouble I realistically could get in. But it took my very last class in business school of being a student for my business law professor to pull me aside and to say, you have some sort of horrendous ADD and I don't even know if I want you in my class anymore. And I was like, oh, that's a thing. Oh, you think I have it?
Wait, you were still talking a lot and you were in business school?
Oh, yeah. I had my seat changed in every class up until through graduate school. That's a fact. That's a true story. So, yeah. It's true.
That is crazy. Not crazy like in a bad way, but it just goes to show you that even those traits those traits you had as a child kind of carry through and are just part of your personality and the core essence of who you are, right?
I mean, they say that, the bulk of entrepreneurs have ADD. I mean, that's another word that people carry and like to put on themselves. But the beauty, the plus and the minus of it is that, your mind is moving so many miles an hour that the things that you don't do right, you don't actually spend the time and harp on it and, beat yourself up on it. It like you do it and you move on. Okay, I messed up next.
What was the dream for you as a kid, adolescent, teenager? What did you think the grown-up Emily was going to be?
When I was 6, I wanted to have a teddy bear factory. That was...
Oh my, we would have been friends. We would have been best friends. We talked a lot. I love teddy bears. What? Yes.
No, I wanted to, and this is pre-Build-A-Bear, obviously. This is before Build-A-Bear came out. When Build-A-Bear came out, you don't even understand how angry I was. I was angry. I was pissed off. I was like, what? She stole my idea. Wow. I wanted people to get involved and develop an emotional connection. And I wanted to be the one who could make money and bring joy to other people. That is what I wanted to do. And I said, I have to do it and it's got to be mine. My mom still likes to bring up, she's like, you did want to have that teddy bear factory. I was like, I know. And then someone took it. And PS to that, I friended the founder on LinkedIn and I'm still trying to have her meet. Because my husband
the plan?
Said, it's irrelevant. She's on board now. She's opted out. She checked that box. But, my husband said, you have to stop saying you friend people on LinkedIn. And I'm like, no. Once we connect, there's no turning back.
But you know what? We got to talk about that because I think that LinkedIn is the social media platform that so many people sleep on. I made some of my best connections throughout my short career so far, right? Through LinkedIn. And people are just like, how do I get to find people? Go to LinkedIn because I feel like that's the place where people aren't being harassed in ways.
No, they're not. No, LinkedIn is my B. It's true. I probably spend more time on LinkedIn than I do on anything. Literally. I am obsessed with it because, and you follow a trail in order to capitalize on the connections that you need to find out, pieces of the puzzle of who that person is. Okay, it's great on Instagram. You can see where they were. You can see what their interests are. You can see where they went on vacation. But you know what? There's another layer. You want to know where they had their first job. You want to know if you know anybody who worked at that first job. You want to know where they went to college. You want to know where they grew up. And it's not even considered stalking. as far as I'm concerned, because it's not like, you're doing it to wait outside and give them yellow daisies because they like yellow daisies. You're doing it because you're doing it with a desired result. And that's to connect with them and make money off of whatever they do and figure out a way that you can come up with something that will, of course, be mutually beneficial. Because whenever anything is presented, it always needs to be presented that it's mutually beneficial. People screw up on that all the time. I tell my students that nothing can be one-sided. It always needs to be presented with what works for them, not what works for you. What's the ROI for the person on the receiving end in order for them to be intrigued and even to talk to you?
And that's been a big part of you just being able to be successful in building the Handbag Awards. Because I know I've been part of your preliminary judging panel for the past 3 years. Yeah. And
just been it forever.
Yeah. And your sponsors have always been on point. But let's go back to the whole, I know we started talking about this in the beginning, but just in like a nutshell, the Cliff Notes version, how did Handbag Awards come to be? What was the genesis for the idea, and what made you say, all right, this is actually something I want to pursue?
Oh my God, genesis. That's a good word. You know what the other word I'm going to throw in? Narrative.
Okay.
Narrative. Everybody uses my narrative. So it's true. Well, to fast forward the whole thing about me falling into becoming a handbag designer, and then I came up with this idea for a book because I befriended this woman in jury duty who happened to have been a book agent, a literary
jury duty.
agent.
Oh, this story is so. I'm loving this conversation so far. I'm loving this. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell how circular I speak. I mean, this is true. Yeah, this woman had this stack of magazines, and they were bridal magazines, and she had no ring. And I was like, she's totally industry because those books are heavy. Wedding magazines are heavy. I was like, she's doing this for work. And there's a bucket of crazies in jury duty. So you find the one person who's not nuts and you have assigned seats. And I went over to her. I was like, we're going to sit next to each other, just so you know. And she was a book agent. And we became friends. And she said, oh my God, you really should write a book about how to be a handbag designer. And I said, when you're not trained in design, because that's the true story. And that was the beginning of, I guess you could say, of what my genesis was of moving to the next level, because my handbag line, I had a disastrous licensing deal. It was catastrophic. I had to fight to get the rights back. And it was so good on paper. I was so excited that I was going to get paid for the first time, that, with health insurance and so forth, because I was working with a real brand, and it was a catastrophe. And lessons learned, I wouldn't change a thing, but I had the template of my book ready. And I went to her and I was like, okay, when's this book deal happening? Because I have nothing to do, like nothing. And she started laughing and she's like, book deals don't happen like that. You got to find something. And yeah. And then she's like, and P.S., you're not going to be able to live off of that either. And I was like, what? You can't live off the money of your first book. No,
your advance? Aren't you supposed to be rich from your first advance, right?
Yeah. That's like you and one other person. The funny thing is that she said is the name of the book was Handbag Designer 101. And she said, what about creating that kick-ass website that you have in your pitch? And I was like, oh shit. Ooh, sorry. So I went to my blessed husband and I was like, hey, let's make a website. He's like, get away from me.
Is he into, does he do websites?
He's in tech, which is a higher level version of, I could do a website, but I'm above that. So yeah. And he basically said to me, I will help you build it, but I will not do anything for you. It has to be all you. I'm not, if you can't figure something out, you can't figure out Photoshop, make it work because I'm out. This is yours. That's what we did on my honeymoon.
Your honeymoon, Emily?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, right. Well, I'm married to someone who has had their own business as well. And, it's fiction, I think, if you're realistically switching off. Yeah. And it was still in the nascent stages. We were still theoretically young, and it wasn't, it was exciting. It was like, okay, great, we can do this. And we went to Maine, and it was very, chill and the whole thing. So this was October. And I said, oh my God, I have to make money somehow. I can't go back to having a day job. I haven't had one in so long. What can I do? And I had been teaching one of the classes I had done was in this industry immersion class where I took my students around to people in the marketing industry and fashion and so forth. And I was speaking to one of my contacts and I said, oh, well, what would be funny is to do an award show for handbag designers because there's so many of them. And he said, well, that's what you should do. And I looked at him and I was like, you know what? I can do this. I can do that easily. That's easy for me. And he starts laughing and he said, what do you mean? And I said, okay, well, I'll create categories. I know what the categories should be. And then I'll design into what the sponsorship should be. And then when I present it, I can tell said sponsor that they'll be able to get a designer who will hustle and pimp themselves out on behalf of their brand. And there could be a collaboration or a brand ambassadorship or something along those lines. Now, that was January of 2007 when I did that. The first awards was June 2007, and I was 8.5 months pregnant, and 500 people showed up, and we had 400 applicants.
What?
Yeah.
Wait. How did that happen? What kind? I'm not saying you had to be crazy, but that's only what? You said January to June?
Correct.
That's 5 months.
Correct. And you want to know the funniest part about it is because, I'm not going to say because I hustle, but it's something I would actually, the chase of having something happen is kind of what I enjoy. And I do that blindly. I just kind of throw myself into it and I'm not even aware that I'm doing it. I'm like, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to make this happen. It kind of becomes a fixation. So I connected with the founder of the Webby Awards. And I informed him, I was like, we should meet for coffee. We have all these people in common, LinkedIn. And so he met me for coffee. And mind you, some people are very beautiful, pregnant people. They glow. I don't think I was one of those people. And I met him and he was like, hey, you're pregnant. And I was like, oh, so you've noticed. And I said, listen, I have this idea for this award show for handbag designers. And the first thing he said, he's like, it's too niche. And I was like, I know that, but I know how many handbag designers there are because I'm part of a larger community because I've been doing this for so long. And it's one of the things that whether or not the market goes up and down, people still buy handbags. It correlates to lipstick. They call it the lipstick theory, inelastic, elastic in terms of marketing and sales. So I told him that and he's like, but it's niche. And I was like, okay, but anyway, moving on. And he's like, okay, well, this is what you have to do. You have to charge people to apply because that's where your money will come from. And I said, but I've applied to so many design competitions and it offends me because as soon as I see that payment come up, I don't want to do it. And I've applied to so many design competitions, I can't even tell you. And by this point, I know I'm not going to make it to the final, so I don't even want to pay the $25. For better or for worse, I made this unilateral decision that I wasn't going to charge people. And because I was already teaching, I had entree to at least 2 schools that I could reach out to. So it was kind of strange that it kind of was a seamless process for me to go to the brands that I knew and the people I knew and said, would you be open for this? And, I basically did the opposite of everything he said. And then he said, and you're not going to be profitable your first year. And I pocketed 10 grand my first year net. This is the funny part. I asked him prior to even having this event, mind you, I'm pregnant. I was like, do you think you'd want to buy it?
Wait, you asked him like buy the idea or?
Yeah, I was like, I'll be part of it, so don't worry.
And what was his response? No?
Yeah. He was like, yeah, well, I'll get back to you.
But you know what I'm hearing from this story, and I think it's something that's really useful for people listening in, is the idea that you were part of the community. So you had a real connection to what the need was, right? And so although it was so niche, you knew it's something that would be valuable to both the applicant and the sponsors, right?
I think also the fact is that, having had this experience working in media for almost 10 years, I had an idea of how to sell and to sell to whom I was selling and what they needed to hear. So I think there's small takeaways of recognizing, to your point, it's very, very difficult to get into something that you know nothing about and think that you can split the atom, right? And it doesn't have to be something you're passionate about, but it should be something you know and you understand. Because if you don't understand who your customer is on either side, then it's a very, very expensive hobby, and your learning lessons will continue to go on and on and on if, there's no interest in trying to understand more about the needs of these people.
So what was your strategy for getting your sponsors your first few years? What was your pitch to them that they could not say no to?
I don't think it's one of those things that people can't say no. I knew straight off the bat that I was presenting this as an opportunity, and it would be perceived as a marketing opportunity. So I knew it would have to come from a marketing budget. And I knew that marketing budgets for some brands can be very, very big. And for some brands, it can be non-existent. And that, again, this is a niche event. And until it was theoretically proven, it would have been difficult for me to get money from people, or at least have it validated in their heads. So, at this point, 12 years later, it's validated. I had one really exciting moment at the end of year 2 when I was able to convince the editor-in-chief of InStyle and the head publisher that they would then be part of the event. I mean, that was one I can remember. I jumped on my fire escape and almost fell through. But, it's like those moments are really great to have, but you can't rest on your laurels. And I think that's another thing that people tend to forget, that one amazing moment isn't enough to keep things going for you. And again, this element of ADD is that the bad you move on from and the good you move on from really, really fast. Like, okay, that's amazing. All right, what's next? Because whatever it is, you're never, ever done. This event was in June, and I usually, by this point, start pitching people for next year. It's an 11-month process to get money from people, and then for the production, and then getting it going. It went from being this little itty bitty event that I did everything by myself, literally everything, to it has to look the part of event that's been around for 12 plus years. If you're going to keep something growing, it has to look like it's grown.
All right, so we're going to take a quick break from the episode so you can hear from our sponsor, Skinny Dipped. So you guys know, if you've been following me on social, I've given up on ice cream. I don't know for how long, but no more ice cream for Raina. But the one thing I do know I will not give up on is chocolate. So Skinny Dipped is a chocolate-covered almond reinvented. They are non-GMO certified, are all ethically sourced chocolate, no artificial flavors or sweeteners, no wax or shellac, and they are all PPO-free almonds. Their almonds have a thin coat of chocolate, which means less sugar, more protein, and more fiber. I personally love their dark chocolate and espresso flavors. There's so many different ways that you can eat them. For example, they're great for breakfast. You can chop them up with some fruit salad, put them in a yogurt smoothie bowl. They're good for a post-workout fuel, a midday pick-me-up, or a healthy dessert option. And if you're like me, they are good to put in your desk when you need that, snack during the day to just get through your 9 to 5. What's even more exciting about the company is that they were founded by a mom and daughter and 2 of her best friends. So they are woman-owned and operated. Go girl power. So give them a try and check out skinnydip.com and use the code DREAMSANDDRIVE for 20% off your order. So that's skinnydip.com, and make sure you guys support the show and use the code DREAMSANDDRIVE for 20% off your next order. Let's get back to the episode. What has been the biggest way that, if you look at the event year 1 and then look at it year 12, what was the biggest change that happened over those 12 years?
I mean, there's been a shift in terms of the product market, and this sounds so trite, but because of social media, people have this amazing capability to see so much more product. Whether or not people are smart and can take advantage to really do a competitive analysis, to learn who their competition is, to understand the market, to understand product, it's out there for the taking for those who are smart enough to use it. I mean, the one thing that I always tell my students is that research is free, homework is free. Once you start putting money into something, it stops being free. So to do as much as you physically can before you start is usually your best bet, because once you start, there's no turning back.
Wait, what do you mean by that? Like, what's a real life example of that?
I teach an entrepreneurship class, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the first class, or the second class, actually, I have them all do an elevator pitch of a product that they think is missing on the market. They have a minute to pitch it. I clock them and everything. And then by the end of the class, the ideas that have received the most votes are the ones that then become the ideas that the class, they go onto teams. There's usually 7 of them with 3 students per team, per group. And they then have to manage this product from inception to shelf to repeat business to customer acquisition to charity to philanthropy, the whole thing. They have to launch this product from soup to nuts. And the takeaway from this, and I've seen this year after year, is the fact that usually the idea you have when you start is not the product you have when you finish. And that's because from the amount of homework and research that you do to realize that maybe my idea was good, but the execution can't be like that. And the concept of pivoting, I think with social media, so many people are so afraid to change their idea because they've put it out there already, and they're afraid they're going to be judged for changing it. And when it's your money on the line, it's really up to you to figure out the best way to maximize whatever desired result you have. And if the idea you have isn't working, you don't have to abandon it. You fix it, you pivot it, you turn it into something that is much more viable.
Did you have to do that at any point with the Handbag Awards?
Yeah, I mean, I've done a lot of things. The concept, though, more or less is the same. And I think because I worked in media, and this sounds so stupid for me to keep saying it over and over, but I understand what a media package looks like. I think the components of it have changed in terms of what people receive. The expectations are much higher. Having a social media tie-in and to see what we can do and so forth. But for the most part, it really hasn't changed so much. The production of the event has gotten a lot higher. I've learned that over the years, people are visual. They need to see things. And I think, we've integrated stories and the videos that the designers have had that the designers make. So when the winner's name is called, we actually show the clip of the video that they've made. And it's really emotional because there's like 500 people there, and this designer goes up on stage that nobody knows, but everybody's already crying for them because they saw this clip of this designer pouring their heart out on a 60-second video saying, this is all I've ever wanted to be. I'm passionate. This is my dream. So then you have everybody emotionally vested, and all of a sudden, I want to see what happens to that person. I want to follow their story. So I think discounting this concept of tying people in on an emotional level is something most people don't even think about. And I think in terms of the changes we've made, those are the touchstones that I've recognized that we need to throw in.
What has been a huge mistake that you've made over the past 12 years that you've learned from considerably?
This event is challenging to do every year. That has not changed. It is not a mellifluous kind of event. I have to get money from people every year. I've got to convince people every year. There's, you're eating your humble pie on a constant basis that, you've had this amazing thing. Millions of people have heard of it. You have, tons and tons of people have heard about you within your own community, but then you're pitching it to somebody new who doesn't even know you and has 3 minutes to actually find out who and what you're about, and you need to sell them on this idea. So the fact that they haven't heard of you and you've been around for so long, then it's almost like it's your fault. Obviously you're not doing that great of a job if I haven't heard of you. So, you have to be that spin master and make it into something like, wow, here's something that you really missed out on. Guess what you need to be part of. If you're going to bet on the right horse, you better make sure that horse is going to deliver. You want the people to win who are going to represent you the best. So I want to make sure that if I'm going to have a designer win, that I know that designer will not be, as I call, basement to Beyonce, which means that just because they win, all of a sudden now they're too good to do anything.
Yeah, and you want the people who appreciate it, right? Who really, truly will work and deliver on what they said.
Exactly. So I think, going through that vetting process that we go through with the preliminary panel, we've gotten a lot more I think we spend a lot more time analyzing the designer and looking at their line and trying to see who and what they represent, and then checking their price points. Like, you can tell that if somebody's charging $1,000 for their product, it's a few things: that one, they don't know how to price it; two, they don't have the money; or three, they think their product is worth that much that people will spend it, and they won't. And that's ego research and ignorance.
That's what I love about being part of the panels, because even just being a panelist or a judge, you realize there's so many things that you need to consider, right? Because you might think $1,000 price point, oh, this person's good as, this is luxurious, or this is part of a different niche. But no, it's really they just don't understand what they're doing, right?
Exactly.
That is so important. Something else you mentioned earlier I think is really interesting is the whole idea of knowing who you're pitching to. Could you tell our listeners, like, what do you think is the key? I know that this could be a whole podcast on itself, a whole episode.
I'll come back.
But like, let's say, okay, we'll make it fun. Let's say I'm Dreams and Drive and I'm a handbag company, right? Right? And you're like, listen, Raina, you need to be part of Handbag Awards. What are the key parts of the pitch or parts of the sponsor email, whatever? Like, how would you go about getting me to be on, to sign the check?
At the end of the day, I would want to think about what you could get out of it. The hook of what I always have to come up with are these design challenges. So what could I create? What is the USP, the unique selling point that you would find this interesting? So if you're a podcast and you're trying to reach people who are entrepreneurs and small businesses, what kind of bag would your listener want? What kind of bag would you want? So I would come up with, in my mind, a challenge of, okay, how would this be interesting to her? And what kind of design would she be excited about to be part of, to have people to then design into? So I would have to reverse engineer that and really work backwards to figure out, okay, well, this is a podcast. People don't see, people are only listening. So what are the needs of these people? What's the demographic? So I'd have to do some homework and research to figure out, who are her listeners? Are they mostly women? Where do they live? What do they look for? And then try to figure out from a socioeconomic level, well, what kind of bag are they already carrying to begin with? Do they need a new bag? Are they aspirational? Are they inspirational? It's like things like this that you have to figure out. And then I would say, does she have any money to spend? Well, if it's a podcast, let me think, does she have a day job? Is this really something that she gets money for advertisers? And if it really is something big, then she's got the money. But if it's a side hustle, then probably not. So maybe I'll get her involved and we can make this a mutual, I'll scratch my back, you scratch yours, you help promote, and I'll make sure that we get the winners on board, and you could do some story and you could do a podcast with them. That's the whole idea. And I think it's really understanding what the needs are of the person you're pitching. And that is what most people tend to forget. And going back to LinkedIn, people reach out to me a lot. I think just by default of being this handbag person, people find that interesting. I teach entrepreneurship. I've been in the business long enough, So I get these messages from people, trying to sell me stuff. And if they looked at it closely enough, they'd realize that it's mine. I'm by myself. I have a lot of people who work with me, but they work with me on a short-term basis. So chances are I don't have the budget to spend on some cockamamie marketing promotion thing when the marketing promotion is probably coming from me and I don't need your help. So, I'm not the person you should be pitching to. And I won't even really give you that much time because you should have known that to begin with.
Yeah, I think so many people just don't want to do that research, right? Like you said earlier, it's the marketing departments that most people, but some people might reach out to press. They might reach out to the PR departments. They're not going to give you money. PR's main job is to get publicity, which they want it to be free, unless they're influencer marketing or something like that.
I call PR people all the time. I mean, PR marketing, sometimes they have a major overlap depending on the company. Mm-hmm. Whoever's willing to take my call, I will talk to.
And then do you normally ask for the right person to talk to if they say they're not the right person?
No, I give them the dog and pony show, and then I wait to hear what they say, because it's a vetting process. And if they're not the right person and they think the idea is worthy, then they'll pass me on. And therefore that is actually a good thing, because that's one more feather in my cap that I was already validated by somebody internally.
So they'll pass you off with the recommendation and not just I don't know who this person is type of thing.
I wouldn't even call it a recommendation, because I would follow up saying, so-and-so said that you were the right person, that I should follow up with you.
Where do you get this hustle from, Emily?
I don't know. I just don't think, I think my personality has never lent itself to having a day job. I've never been very good at it. I really think it's a good thing to have a lot of energy. It's hard to be a circle and a square peg with this kind of behavior that I have.
And you're a working mom. You have 3 beautiful kids. How do you balance family life, entrepreneurship, and just having time for Emily? I
love how you say they're beautiful. What if my kids weren't?
They still be beautiful. Anyway. They still be beautiful.
You've got kids that are pretty mediocre looking, but how do you deal with that too?
That's another podcast episode. All right, that's another one.
God. Oh my God. I've worked from home for so long, and I stand by this whole thing of independence and being self-reliant. And I can't have kids that are not able to take care of themselves and to be self-confident and to be independent. And they've known since they fell out that this is how it works. That if I have my headset on and the door is closed, don't come in. And unless you've chopped your finger off or the house is on fire, you don't need me. Work it out. That's the cold, honest fact. I have a 1.5-year-old, and my son, who is 7 years older, has been taking care of him since he was born, because if my older daughter, who's 10 now, if she wasn't around, it would be up to him to take care of him. They've both changed his diaper. They've both fed him. They've both, looked after him. They've read to him. They've all done that. They've had to take care of themselves. They have to do their own homework. I've told them that you could have a nanny who may or may not pay attention to you, or you could have me with you who isn't paying attention to you at all, but I'm here if you need anything. So,
choice, right? You got to give them choice from an early age.
I say that to be funny, but I've been very blessed with good kids. And, my daughter's been working this event for 3 years, and she invoices me. I've had them invoice me for a long, long time. And I don't believe in an allowance. That really kind of annoys me, because I don't believe that kids should be paid for things that
you're supposed to do.
Yeah, because if that's the case, I really should be paid, like where am I? And PS to that, I was having such a rough day last week that I added a line item to my LinkedIn that I'm a mom. I really did. I did. There's 3 of them now. So I figured once you have a 3rd kid, it's definitely worthy of a mention on LinkedIn, because I'm responsible for a lot of what they do. But it's like finding myself money as I'm doing it. I'm like, nope, this is all legit. It takes up a lot of my time, and I'm responsible for them. So you know what? It should be on there too. I really think, and my daughter was lamenting about wanting to be on social media because her friends are, and I told her no. And I said, you're too young to have your emotions tied to having your life validated to a picture. And I said, and if you want it, I want to see a full marketing plan of what your vision is and what your brand is for you to go on Instagram. And if you go off brand, then, I have a right to pull it like a client. So I want to make sure that everything that will potentially post is really making sure that you're being your own best publicist. So you won't be concerned about all the likes.
Is she working on the plan? I feel like she probably would be working on the plan.
The beauty of me putting all of this in front of her, and people say like, oh, your kids must be so entrepreneurial. And I said, I don't know so much if they're so entrepreneurial, but they know that what they need to do to get things done, because that's just how it is. I started working at 11, I, had a babysitting business. I was putting posters all over with the little pieces of paper and the tabs and so forth. And I've always been able to make my own money one way or another. I think that's how it should be. And I don't like to pussyfoot around that. I care not for this behavior of people thinking they could get things without having to work for them. I think that's messed up. And I'm not going to spawn that either.
I'm with you on that. But as we wind down, Emily, what are some of your favorite resources that you would recommend to any dream driver just starting out, or somebody who's already has their foot in the game but needs some extra help with getting things moving?
If you have an idea, write it down. And from there, I think it's always so overwhelming for people to say, oh, write it down, make a spreadsheet, this and that. But I think the best work really comes from, I got my book deal because I had detailed notes about the steps I took to become a handbag designer. I think the deal came because funnily enough, because I created an award show that was part of the idea. I basically validated myself as an expert. To think that amazing things are going to happen without you putting the time and effort in, it's just not realistic. I mean, lightning does strike, but what happens after that? So I don't think there's any shame in making sure that you work on your hustle and you fine tune it and you make mistakes and you screw up. And I think if you write down this idea and you start thinking and put it in quotes and in bold, what is the desired result? What am I trying to accomplish? Who am I trying to reach? Is this a good or is this a service? Am I trying to make people happy? Am I creating a need or a want? Because a need is very, very different than a want. It's a different budget of how people spend. Everybody says retail is dead. People aren't shopping. That's a big lie. People are shopping. They're just shopping differently. So how can you get people to spend money on this concept? And think about it. Would you? And as I always tell my students, there's a reason why things aren't out there. Ideas aren't out there. And if you think you're the first person who came up with this idea and nobody else did, there's a strong possibility that several other people came up with it and it just won't work.
Sometimes we don't want to think about it, right? Like we don't want to accept it, but that really could just be true.
I've consulted with so many small businesses and so many designers and all of that. And the funny thing is that I spoke to this woman, and God bless her. I left her in tears, and I leave a lot of people in tears. And it's not for any other reason that I'm not nice. I'm just to the point. And I don't like people having their time wasted. And if people are going to waste money, then you should have it from somebody who's doing you a favor and saying, well, maybe she had this idea for a camera bag for women. And I've had other people saying, a diaper bag for moms. And then, you start peeling the onion and you finally get to the point of telling them that you're not even your own customer. You couldn't even afford the bag that you're trying to create. People have tried this millions of times, but you wouldn't even spend money on your own product. Because you are a Louis girl, or somebody's gonna, a diaper bag is a one-time purchase for a mom, for a first-time mom. A second-time mom isn't gonna use a diaper bag. She's gonna put a diaper in her back pocket and a Ziploc of white.
Right.
That's how it works. We don't need all that crap. I've learned that I can get my kid an empty cup and he's happy. Put your hand in, put your hand out, drop it, pick it up. I don't bring toys with me. There's certain things that you have to realize the hard way, that when trying to innovate, you have to recognize that perhaps the innovators have happened. And one more thing, there's something that Google has. It's Google Patents. And a lot of people think that when they're coming up with this new great idea, you can Google to see if somebody's tried to do it before.
I've never known about that. Google Patents. I will link to that in the show notes.
Well, the USPTO.gov, that's the U.S. Patent and Trademark Organization, but Google has their own version that you can actually see the patents, they have the visuals and so forth. And I came up with this idea for an urban umbrella, for an umbrella that would attach to a stroller. And I have the patent on it and so forth. And I thought, oh my God, this is amazing, the whole thing. And the very long story short of that is that moms won't spend money on an umbrella for a stroller. They won't.
Right? Because most of the times if you're in the rain and you're pushing a stroller, you just want to get out of the rain, right? So you just get wet as long as the stroller has the little hood for the child, right? I mean, that's what I would think. I'm not a mom.
No, but there's a shelf life for product. And especially, for a bride or a first-time mom, there's a lot of first-time and one-time purchases that you may validate or you might not. Mm-hmm. Like a certain kind of crib. Are you that person? Nobody really needs Beyonce's crib. It's not logical. You don't need a clear crib,
Yeah.
So the point is that you have to realize and do some deep diving. If somebody's already come up with that idea and has a patent on it and you haven't seen it on the market, chances are there's a reason for that. So stop yourself before you think you're going to be the person who does it. Maybe you shouldn't be. Maybe you should take that idea and take it to the next level of a way that will translate into modern day uses and pivot it into something that might be more realistic.
So let's go into our lightning round, Emily. This conversation has been so much fun already. This part of the interview, I'm going to give you a prompt, and I want you to just tell me the first word or phrase that comes to mind. And remember, we're sticking with our whole dreams and drive metaphor.
Go ahead.
The first word is park.
Park?
Mm-hmm. Gear shifts in the car. Think gear shifts. Park.
Oh, I don't drive. I was like, wait, the park across the street where I got wet? Park? Crap. I'm not good at this, Raina. I could say that you probably look good in a car while you're parked.
All right. Reverse.
Make sure you look where you're going, because that's where I got into an accident when I first got my license, and that's why I don't drive.
Neutral.
That's when you're just sitting still, right?
Mm-hmm.
But do you have your foot on the brake or you don't need to?
I don't know, really. I don't really drive in neutral.
Cars really have a neutral now?
I know it's there. I think it's like if you're like, jumping your car or if you're trying to push it, if it broke down or something. I actually really don't know what neutral means when you're on the gear shifts.
Oh, you mean in stick? Do they have a neutral in stick?
Let's go to drive.
Okay, drive. I'm going to quote Oprah because I saw this a million years ago. She said, the amount of energy you spend looking back to see the people who are following you, you can put that energy moving forward.
I love that. And if you want to be a dream driver, you have to have your keys to success. So can you tell me 3 things that you think every dream driver needs before they hit the road?
Patience,
mm-hmm.
no ego, and hustle and being grateful. Always be gracious.
I love that. So where can our dream drivers find you online if they want to connect, want to learn more about you, Emily?
I'm at Handbag Designer on everything. Everything.
This has been so much fun, Emily. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge. And I really hope that our dream drivers have gotten so much from you. I have all these notes in my paper right here. So I know that they also are just probably smiling right now as I am.
Well, Raina, you are a peach and a half. I'm so happy you're part of what we do. And I was so flattered that you thought of me to do this. And if you ever want to do it again, I'm more than happy to tag team on this, because this is what I do. And if I can help inspire people to dream smart and fail fast, I think that's a problem that kids today are told that they can be whatever they want to be. And they really shouldn't be whatever they want to be. They should be what they should be and take those life lessons and try to make something happen with themselves to dream smart.
All right, so that's a wrap for episode 163 with Emily Blumenthal. I hope you enjoyed hearing her dream driving story and her keys to success. If you love this episode, you guys know what I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask that you please share this with one person or a group of people, whatever you want to do. I am okay with that. Remember, we are Dreams and Drive on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So those are the best ways to share. You can screenshot, send a link, do whatever you have to do, but tell one person about the podcast this week. That would mean the world to me. I have steadily been trying to grow our audience, and I really do rely on you guys to help spread the word each week as well. If you are not already subscribed to us wherever you're listening, whether that be Apple Podcasts, the purple app on your iPhones, Google Podcasts now, Spotify, iHeart, SoundCloud, Google Play, wherever, please hit subscribe so that you get notifications every time we have a new episode. And if you're not part of our Dreams and Drive Facebook group, you can find us by searching Dream Driver Mastermind on Facebook, or you can go to dreamsanddrive.com/Facebook. So let's see if we have a Dream Driver Minute. I want to shout out somebody who's left a review, and this one is coming from BX Jenny. I'm guessing she's Jenny from the Bronx. I don't know. And her review says, awesome interviews. Raina's interview questions are really clear and insightful. She also has great chemistry with her guests. Thank you, girl. Loved her interview with Ariel from Just a Little Sugar. Really enjoy this podcast. Thank you so much. You know, I do these podcasts because I want to make sure that you guys are getting something out of them. So hearing these reviews, reading them really means a lot to me, and I hope that it helps other people as well. So if you want to share your experience, leave feedback, please go to the Apple Podcast app, leave a rating and also a review, and you'll probably hear it on the next episode. Is there anything else I want to talk to you guys about? You know, we still have our Dreams and Drive gear. I'm having that stuff on sale all summer long. So if you want to get some Dream Driver gear, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/shop. That's dreamsanddrive.com/shop. And also remember, guys, I'm actively looking for new sponsorships and giveaway partners. So if you're interested in offering a giveaway on the show or sponsoring an episode in the fall and the end of the summer, just send me an email, Raina@dreamsanddrive.com. That's RANA@dreamsanddrive.com. And we can talk about the inventory we have left for the rest of the season and for the rest of the year. I am all about meeting some of my personal goals for the podcast. And I'm really in this whole mindset of, you know what, Raina? You have to dream big. You have to go big. You have to level up, as Ciara said, right? Have you guys checked this level up dance challenge and just the whole level up movement? When I see that, it's like, Raina, you need to step up your game. You need to really go hard because this is your dream. I'm approaching 3 years in 2019, and I'm so proud of how much I've built, and I know that I could go even harder. So please support, please give your words of encouragement, please keep a sister in your prayers and your meditations, whatever it is that you believe in. Please, please, please just help keep spreading the Dreams and Drive movement, the Dreams and Drive feeling, the Dreams and Drive journey with others. I appreciate it, and I'm sure the people you're sending to Dreams and Drive appreciate the message that they're getting and the message they're receiving and the fuel they're getting for their own journeys. Keep dreaming, keep driving, and don't forget to get 20% off your Skinny Dipped order by using the code Dreams and Drive at checkout. Bye, guys.